Um, Something that Diane spoke right at the beginning triggered something very sweet inside me, which she said was joy as medicine. And somehow those three words have stayed with me. And I've been thinking, back home in India, we have this idea where we request the divine, that how can we become a better instrument? How do we become a better instrument of your will? Whatever it is that you want to happen, how can I participate? For those who've ever seen a picture of Krishna, the Indian god, he's represented with a flute. So Krishna as the divine and each of us as a flute. So a question I've been staying with is, how do I become a flute? How do I become a hollow and empty being so that I offer least resistance to what needs to flow through? And as was even shared by Len earlier, a bridge between heaven and earth. One of the practices I've been staying with is, how do I find delight in the ordinary? How do I find my joy in what's around me in every moment? How do I assume value everywhere? Seeing magic in the simple everyday moments. And I think that's what's coming up for me right now. And thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you, Sheetal. So nice to have you here with us from India. Anyone who is appearing on the screen, anyone like to go next? Steve, and then Jessica, yeah.
I have a question for Diane. In the original Hebrew text, what does image come from? And is it really translated, and do we use it in our English language the same way as if it was originally intended?
Well, maybe I'll ask Diane if you can hold that question and answer it afterwards, since we're going in the circle now in a non-interactive mode right now.
Okay.
But that question about image, see Diane writing it down. Anything else, Steve, that you'd like to offer?
The text is important to me because it shows that everything around us, all of creation, is sacred. Whether it's a slug, a leaf, a mosquito, a bear, a human being, we all come from the same source. And so we're all sacred and it's all divine.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Jessica.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you, Libby, for your opening up of this teaching. So when I think of the opening meditation, our breath connection, and then the idea that we are created from breath and dust, we are creative actively. This is an active transmission, a transfer of energy. And so we as the created become vehicles for this transmission. And I'm a professional singer. And to me, breath is the most active and creative transmission that there is. It gives, it voices and resonates everything that we all do in any communication that we have. And now we can even see, there was a meme on the internet recently about how the earth breathes. And it really brought that meditation forward to me. So how do I see myself in that, as if I'm a product of that very active transmission? It tells me that I am in that line, that I am also a vehicle for transmission of my highest purpose, my highest self. We learn in Judaism, I'm a seminary student, we learn in Judaism the idea that we're put on this earth with a single job, and that we are the best person to actualize that job. And so when I take and see myself as a creative force, as a vehicle for transmission, that I must look deep inside myself and find what that one job is that I'm put on this earth to do, that no one else can do like I can, and go forward with it as fully as possible. And that is how I am part of the body of God, and what helps me bring God's image into the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Tenzin, may I call on you? Here, let me unmute you.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, good.
Yeah. I also had a question, if there's time at the end, and I don't know if I should ask it now or wait until there might be time at the end.
Now is fine. Now is fine.
I'm really curious about the third text, Rabbi Diane, that you didn't comment on, specifically this thing about, and your version was a little bit different, who formed the human being with wisdom and created her with many tiny apertures and vessels, and some that are open that should be closed, and some that are closed that should be opened. And that, I'm just very curious about what that refers to. It reminds me of kind of a concept we have in Buddhism of becoming open to kind of guidance, and we call it blessings. We translate this word blessings, but it really means in the Tibetan something like opening yourself up to the transforming guidance of enlightened beings. And somehow it reminds me of that. So I'd love to hear your comments on that. And just in terms of the text that you've commented, what comes up for me in Buddhism is this idea of Buddha nature, that we actually, I mean, one way of looking at it is our potential for perfection, and one is we're kind of already perfected, and we just have what we call adventitious defilements that block our inner enlightened nature. So that's, you know, in terms of kind of being created in God's image, I guess the idea of Buddha nature would be a bit the Buddhist take on what that means, is that we have this enlightened nature that is there as a potential to be kind of revealed through the path. Yeah.
Thank you, Tenzin.
Thank you.
I want to sort of pay attention to user one that on my screen. Raghav, is that you? Let's see, let's unmute. Who is user one? No answer. Okay. So who? Okay, Wendy. Let me call on you. Okay. Great.
Can you hear me? Because Libby had mentioned my microphone was not working too well.
I can hear you okay now.
Okay. Well, a couple of things. Some of my work in my life has been around nursing. And so finding God in one's body has been so much of my life's work. And what occurred to me is so much of what healing is about is to really recognize God in the other person, and God's presence in the other person. And that's whoever you're with, or healing within oneself, finding God within myself. which is brings about the ultimate healing. So that's one thing that occurred to me. Literally, the that Diane mentioned and Tenzin mentioned, one thing that I read was a comment by a rabbi who had had a stroke, and that that prayer had so much meaning for her about openings, which she looked at as blood vessels, that should be open, but her blood vessel had closed, and so that aperture had closed, and so she was relating having a stroke to the importance of openings that need to be openings, and of course, what needs parts of us that need to be closed and not exposed to the outside world. So the body works in the way it should work every day. And lastly, I do also want to mention the last reading that Diane brought, the Baal Shem Tov, and the how also bringing God into this world is to experience joy and to experience we were made in these bodies, and the pleasure that we can feel in our bodies, and the pleasure we can feel of the world around us, that nature that people brought up, music people brought up, and to experience that in this incarnation is a way to experience God in our bodies in the world. Thank you.